Hello, it is Sage. I wanted to do more of a story time, chill vibe situation. I got my comfy t-shirt on, just ready to wind down for the night. And I figured it would be a great time to do a little story time. So, in January of 2022, which is this year, I started having a long period. This whole video, we are going to talk about bleeding from my vagina, along with many other things, but that is going to be one of the constants through this video. So if that is a no-go for you, totally fine. This is not the video for you. This is literally about the probable bleeding disorder that I have. So let's go back to the beginning. So in January, I started noticing that I was bleeding for 2 weeks, I think, straight, and then I had a couple days off, and then I started bleeding again. I have a couple days off, and like that. Now I do have a 2-year-old, and I have a non-hormonal IUD, the copper one. So this started like a year postpartum. I've had my IUD the entire time, so there isn't any reason that I would have an irregular period, no chance of pregnancy. So I kind of just wrote it off as trauma, because I pretty much write everything off as trauma these days. So that's what we kind of just wrote it off as. And then in February, I bled more of the month than I didn't. And that's when I was like, something's kind of weird, but again, just trauma. It's probably just trauma. Anything that happens to my body that shouldn't happen, that's just trauma. It's fine. It's fine. So again, I didn't think that much of it. But my periods increased and increased and increased until now I don't even call it a period. But by March, so January, February, March, I bled the entire month. And ever since then, I have maybe had, I've had, I don't know, I would say maybe at very most 10 days. It's so hard to get that number out because I want it to be accurate. Probably 10 days that I haven't bled at all since March, and it is now August. So it started just being all the time. It's if you know about to give you an idea, day to day, every day, it would vary between barely spotting to going through, multiple pads in a day, not on my period. And when I would get my period, it would be horrible. And so I could tell the difference between just basically leaking blood and my period. And it was in May that I got my period, and I was literally hemorrhaging blood. I talked to my mom, I talked to her, I talked to my doctor, I talked to, before that, the nurse, practitioner, whatever, that was there, I looked up online, of course, and they said if you're bleeding enough to where you're bleeding through one or more pads an hour, then you need to go to the ER. I was bleeding way more than that. Like, if you've had a kid or you know about postpartum bleeding, it was that. It was literally that. About to get graphic, so a little trigger warning, but I was passing clots the size of a golf ball every time I went to pee. It could be 30 minutes, whatever. Like, it didn't matter how soon it was. If I was peeing and like pushing down there would be clots that big. I caught one in like a cup, you know, you pee in a cup, whatever. I like did that, and I took a picture of it and showed it to my doctor, like, this can't be normal, right? This isn't good to have nowhere around having my baby. So I went to the ER, and it wasn't the best care I've gotten before. My care team is super stellar, so my bar is set pretty high. So it wasn't that. They checked my IUD, said everything was fine, and kind of just like, we're like, yeah, you're bleeding a lot, so we're gonna give you half a bag of saline or like the fluids, whatever. And they gave me a prescription to like for hormones to stop the bleeding. And I was like, can you like test me for something? And one of the nurses at the ER just along the way mentioned my thyroid. It might be my thyroid. So I had them check, and it did come up that my numbers were off. So they were like, you have hypothyroid, and that's why you're bleeding. So they gave me hormones, like a script for the hormones, and I had to get the hormones like the next day because it was so late in the ER. The pharmacy wasn't open. So they were just like, okay, go home, like there's nothing we can do for you here. So went home, got my prescription filled the next day, took those. It slowed it down, but it did not stop the bleeding. And after, I think it was like a week, it was over a week on those, I had, I think, 3 days in a row where I didn't bleed. And that was like, I was like, what? This could work. Absolutely no. Absolutely no. So I came off those to get on birth control and a hormonal birth control to like help with my hormones. And they took another panel of my hormones, and that one turned out fine. Didn't show signs of hypothyroidism, but I was still like not okay. And as soon as I came off that and started the birth control, I started bleeding again. And then I started the birth control, started bleeding again. I bled the entire first month, and then I was supposed to skip, take the sugar pills, whatever. And then from after that, just take them continually. Don't take the sugar pills. I have not had one day of not bleeding since May. Not one day. All of those few days I talked about before were all before that. Ever since May, I have bled every single day. Pretty much all day long. Some days are worse than others. So I got in with a hematologist but they scheduled it 3 months out. So, okay, so when I went to the ER, they're like, you need to get in with an endocrinologist. Yes, probably I really should, because I'm bleeding a lot. Like, my iron was super low, my hemoglobin was super low. Like, they checked and they're like, no, you're losing way too much blood. So I went to sorry, it's been so weird. I'm trying to remember. Okay. So at the ER, they scheduled me an endocrine appointment, but it wasn't for another 3 months. So I didn't have my endocrinology appointment to figure out what to do about my hormones since I was still bleeding the whole time. And to just bleed for 3 months, like just wait. So I went to my endocrinologist at the beginning of this month, the beginning of August. Finally got in. I was so excited to at least get some answers of what was going on. So we talked a lot. Like, so grateful. So grateful. He's great. We talked for an hour and he really listened to me. I talked about all my symptoms that I was having and he ran some tests. Turns out I don't have hypothyroid at all. They are convinced that I have a blood disorder, but they don't know which one. So now I have to wait another 3 months. I am trying to push it forward. Hopefully I can get an appointment before then, but right now on the books, I'm on like the cancellation list, but also my appointment isn't scheduled until December. So I will have gone from January to December without proper care for a blood disorder. And it's none of my doctor's faults. Like, they can't test for that. There's apparently, I've been like learning a little bit. I'm not an expert, but I've been learning a little bit about blood disorders, and there are so many. You really have to be a specialist to know all the things to screen for and then how to interpret those. Like, you gotta check for this protein and that protein, and are they there, and are they working? Do you not have any at all? Like, all this stuff, because I always thought for a blood disorder, you just throw pills at it that like make you stop bleeding. I don't know if that's just naive. It is, but that's apparently not what you do. There's different interventions they use for different blood disorders, which I'm like, that's super cool. You know, once we figure out what it is, hopefully I can get on a medication that stops me from bleeding and having all of the other symptoms that I have. So, aside from the vaginal bleeding, which is so annoying, I have a lot of other symptoms that I didn't know. Like, all of them are blood disorder symptoms, which I never would have like put it on that. Like, I never would have, I don't know, it didn't come to mind. I heard hypothyroid and I was hooked on it. Like, okay, this is what's wrong with me. But apparently my hormone levels were off, probably due to stress, because I was in the ER. So they've been fine for 2 panels after that. So it's not that. Anyway, like trying to get through this. My brain is fried. So I have things to do with the blood, right? Like when I cut myself, I bleed a lot and for a longer period of time than I used to. And because it was so gradual, and I have DID, I don't notice. I mean, like, if you ask me, I could figure it out. Like, I could tell you an answer, but I don't think about it. Like, of all my laundry list of problems, if I bleed for an extra 2 hours, it really isn't that noticeable. Like, it's the least of my worries kind of a thing. But I did notice, like, I could shave my legs in the bathtub and, you know, soaking in the bath longer, like being in there for a while longer, and get out and my leg would still be bleeding. Or like if I were in the shower and doing it, would still be bleeding. And recently I had like ingrown toenail or whatever, and I was just cutting my nails, and it like, I didn't even get the skin. It just like, I don't know, I guess the movement of pressure, whatever, pierced my skin like my nail did, and it just bled and bled and bled and bled and bled and bled. And it was like, it wouldn't heal. So that was like kind of weird. I noted that kind of, but didn't think much of it until the doctor, of course, is asking me all these questions, because he was asking me about all the symptoms of a blood disorder once we kind of ruled out that it wasn't my hormones. So he's asking me all these very pointed questions, and I'm like, well, now that I think about it, I guess so. Because he was asking about that, or like when I brush my teeth, do my teeth bleed? And I was like, oh yeah, they bleed my sleep. Like I will wake up with blood on my teeth when I wake up in the mornings, and then some mornings I don't have that. Like, it's not every morning, but every morning when I brush my teeth bleed. Why? Because, you know, some people, they don't brush their teeth all the time, and I'm the first to say I don't brush my teeth like a dentist would recommend, but on a normal week, I brush my teeth at least 6 days, if not all 7 days. So there's really no reason my gums should be bleeding. I've had that teeth brushing habit my entire life, and I used to not. My gums didn't bleed. My gums started bleeding when I got pregnant. That was like one of my pregnancy symptoms, was that my gums would bleed when I was brushing my teeth. But it stopped. Is that Rowan? That's my dog. Hold on. Okay. So, damn it. So anyway, okay, yeah, my teeth, they stopped bleeding like after I was done being pregnant, and then they started back up again, like around the same time that everything started getting bad in January. And hey baby boy, just my cutest boy. You say hi? You say hi? Okay. I am in my craft room, and I'm just completely always covered in thread. Everything's always covered in thread. So that's one of my symptoms. He asked if I bruise easily, and I was like, well, I have DID. So I, you know, switch in and have bruises all over all the time, and I never know how I get them. He was like, well, has it happened more often recently? I was like, absolutely. Again, not something I would think about to bring to like any doctor, but he asked, and I was like, I guess now that I think about it, I do. And okay, so there's that. Then of course, swelling. Your girl, we gained some weight. I am not mad at it. It is just a result of all my meds. It's a result of all the meds that I'm on, and I would rather be fat and alive and a functioning person, kind of, than to be skinny and not want to be alive. There's nothing wrong with being fat. So I've gained weight, but my hands are not this big. My hands, this is like not even the worst swelling day. This is like a medium swelling day. But my hands, they swell very badly. Very, very badly. And my feet and my legs and under here swells. So that is a symptom. I've been losing hair, which she said could be stress, or it could be, you know, whatever's going on, but I have been losing a lot of hair. And then, of course, there's the pain of it all. Everything hurts. And on flare days, like where it's really bad, it's like, take your breath away. And I've had a kid, you know? Like, in a pretty traumatic way, I had a kid. So I can say these cramps, they feel like contractions. Like, they're that painful. They feel like contractions. And they just come out of nowhere. And the pain will be so bad that it makes me throw up. So when it gets to that point, I can't even take medication because I just throw it up. So there have been a lot of days where I can't do things I want to do. There are some days where I can't sew because my fingers are so fat and sweaty that I can't like work my sewing machine and like turn anything inside out, you know, feed the ribbon and stuff through for the bags that I've been enjoying. Absolutely no. It's a hard no. Can't crochet. There are days where I'm so swollen I can't like write. I can't color. I like to color when I'm anxious or need to calm down. And I can't do any of that on really bad days. I get winded so easily all the time. But on flare days, it is so bad that I will be panting just from walking down the stairs to let my dog pee. Like, not a walk, but just to go pee down one flight of stairs and up one flight of stairs. I will be panting for the next like 15 minutes. I like can't catch my breath. I'm just so winded. If I can change my own sheets like all by myself, it's like a really big deal for me. It's a really big deal because it's a workout. So I have to do it on like a good day or have help. I don't know. The whole thing is just wild. It's wild that I have to wait so long to get the help that I need. Like, I don't know. Bleeding every single day is really hard, especially when you have the kind of trauma that I do. Like, having a period even once a month is triggering. So there's a certain level of dissociation that I've had to have on a day-to-day basis just to go pee, like just to do life. So it's really stunting my healing process with my therapist, my specialist, DID specialist. it's really hindering our growth because I have to stay somewhat protected while all of this health stuff is going on, because I'm being triggered 24/7 every day by the pain, by the blood, by feeling out of control, feeling like my body isn't mine. Like, I already deal with that enough from the DID. Why? Why? I don't know. But it seems to be that all of my symptoms point to a blood disorder. So the bleeding that is happening every single day now, it's not a period. I'm literally just leaking blood. It's not even a period. I can't have a period. I don't have a period. I'm on birth control with no skip days. No skip days. So if I were to skip it, I'd probably be very not good. Very not good. And I'm still having to take iron and vitamin D because I'm bleeding every day, all day. You lose a lot of nutrients that way. And the waters that I drink, I started getting the electrolyte additive to my water. So that has been helpful, trying to stay hydrated. But yeah, basically I'm chronically mentally ill. I wish I could be on disability. I qualify, but because I'm married, we have too much money for me to be on disability. So it's fine. Everything's great. I couldn't be on disability anyway, wanting to have my own business, apparently. At least that's how it is. No, yeah, that's North Carolina. Yeah. I think really the only thing I can say that's good is I'm glad I make my own pads, because for one, it would be very expensive keeping up. You know what I mean? So I just wash my pads. And it makes it a little bit less horrible that I have to wear one 24/7. But they're cute. I'm trying to convince myself that it isn't as bad as it actually is. It could definitely be worse. Everything could always be worse. I stopped saying, at least I don't have that. Because every time I seem to say that, something else happens. So I've stopped saying it. Yes. It could be worse. But it's fine. I feel like I'm getting to such a dissociated point talking about it that I'm having trouble keeping with it. So we're gonna end it here. I don't know if y'all can hear my little one laughing in the background. Love that sound. Okay, well, I'm gonna go so I can get in bed and put my feet up because I'm swollen as fuck and relax with my family. I love you all. Bye.